Whatever happened to Ambrose Bierce? Dear listeners, those of you who follow my channel know I have a fondness for author Ambrose Bierce and have recorded a number of his stories. To me, he is the most important American writer of weird fiction between Poe and Lovecraft. And yeah, I like his dark, sardonic humor. But who was Ambrose Bierce? Here's a short, extremely short, bio. Ambrose Bierce was born on a farm in Meigs County, Ohio, on June 24th, 1842, an ardent abolitionist. He joined the Union Army at the outbreak of the American Civil War and fought at Shiloh and Chickamauga. During his service, Bierce received a serious brain injury in June 1864 during the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain and spent several months recovering. After the war, Bierce joined a military expedition which crossed the Great Plains from Omaha, Nebraska to San Francisco, where he began a career in journalism. As a newspaperman, Bierce was known and frequently reviled for his scathing wit. His nickname was Bitter Bierce, and among his publications was The Devil's Dictionary. Bierce appeared obsessed with death, and according to crime writer J. Robert Nash, he kept the ashes of his son Lee, who died of pneumonia after a serious drinking bout, in a cigar box on his desk, occasionally adding to his son's remains by flicking the ash from the cigar he was smoking into the box. Yet, in spite of the bitterness and eccentricity, Ambrose Bierce is still remembered for his weird tales and their twist endings. His most famous yarn is probably An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, which appeared as an episode on Rod Serling's Twilight Zone. Occurrence is set during the U.S. Civil War, and Bierce also wrote short stories about that conflict, some of which, like Chickamauga, are truly horrifying. But Bierce is also famous for his supposedly true stories of those who vanished under mysterious circumstances, such as 1. The difficulty of crossing a field. The story of an Alabama planter named Williamson, who vanishes in front of a number of startled witnesses while crossing a pasture in July 1854. 2. An unfinished race. An account of a long-distance runner named James Byrne Warson, who disappears into thin air on September the 3rd, 1873, while running from Leamington to Coventry in the UK. And 3. Charles Ashmore's Trail, his trail ending when he was sent to fetch a bucket of water and was never seen again. None of these stories appears to have been true, and they originally appeared in an article called Whither in the San Francisco Examiner for October the 14th, 1888. I found them in Bierce's fiction collection, Present at a Hanging, courtesy of Project Gutenberg. Link in description. The 3 stories did, however, spawn a host of other stories about people disappearing under mysterious circumstances, such as the case of David Lang, a Gallatin, Tennessee farmer who vanished before numerous witnesses while crossing a field on September the 23rd, 1880. After his disappearance, his disembodied voice was heard calling for help, and on the spot where he vanished, the grass either refused to grow or was extremely lush, depending on which version of the story you heard. The details in the David Lang story are found in both The Difficulty of Crossing a Field and Charles Ashmore's Trail, with the latter story inspiring the frightening saga of Oliver Larch, or Lurch, who disappeared on Christmas Eve, 1889, while fetching a pail of water. Both stories were staples in the paranormal/UFO paperbacks of my youth. I first encountered Oliver Larch in a 1965 paperback called The Weirdest People in the World by C.B. Colby, a newspaperman who specialized in stories about ghosts and strange events. And being the same age as Oliver when he was snatched up into the sky, never to be seen again, although he was heard calling for help, the story terrified me. So I guess I should be grateful it wasn't true. I've no doubt the cantankerous Bierce would be delighted to know how well he had fooled, and continues to fool, the credulous. If you would like more information on Oliver Larch and the other stories, please check out my video about them. Links in description. Yet, Bierce's most mysterious disappearance was his own. According to that great reference source, Wikipedia, Bierce, aged 71, left Washington, D.C. on October the 2nd, 1913, to tour Civil War battlefields, and in December crossed into Mexico, then in the throes of revolution, joining Pancho Villa's army as a war correspondent and witnessing the Battle of Tierra Blanca. Bierce was said to have accompanied Villa to Chihuahua, where, running afoul of the revolutionary, he was executed by firing squad. Crime writer J. Robert Nash, who doesn't appear to like Bierce, recounts other theories of his disappearance in his reference work, Among the Missing, an anecdotal history of missing persons from 1800 to the present. Among the theories are: 1. That Bierce was killed in action, or died from exhaustion. Hey, he was an old guy. Wait a second, I'm an old guy. Oh, never mind. 2. That Bierce was poisoned, or poisoned himself, and was buried in his backyard. 3. That Bierce blew his brains out at the edge of the Grand Canyon, his corpse falling into the abyss below. And finally, and weirdest of all, that Bierce was captured by tribesmen who boiled him alive, shrinking his body and putting it into a large bottle in order to worship it. Yikes. What price glory? But me, I wonder if Bierce ever really died. Maybe he's still out there. Maybe he's out there still. So, dear listeners, should you find yourself in Mexico, be on the outlook for an old man with flowing white hair and a flowing white mustache. And if he talks of war, no, he isn't talking about Vietnam or Iraq, but of Shiloh and Chickamauga. And be sure to buy him an ice-cold beer, an ice-cold cerveza. And hey, if it isn't Ambrose Bierce, it's probably me, and I'm always thirsty. Thirsty. The moral of the story? They say death is the greatest mystery of all, but no one's in a hurry to solve it. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs. Till midnight. Cheers. The video footage you have been watching has been recycled from my earlier video, Whatever Happened to Oliver Larch, while the thumbnail image is by Dr. Curious and the music is Aftermath. Aftermath by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod.